Hello everyone, my name is Crystal and welcome to Crystalized Witchery. In today's video we will be discussing the science behind magic. Now, before we begin, since majority of this video does revolve around scientific information, there will not be as many pop-ups and pictures like in my other video. With that being said, just sit back, relax, and enjoy a cup of tea. I gathered as much information as I could last night and done so much research. I was able to find a few videos and a few articles describing the fact that magic has been proven to be real. Now, I'm sure you're wondering if there's evidence about science being real, scientific evidence, why hasn't it been known to the public? Just remember that science is all about concrete evidence. Without the proper evidence that just says it's completely legit, they're gonna name it as a theory or a myth. It's very difficult to get evidence of a belief system that completely relies on you believing that it's real in order for your brain to produce the proper chemicals to make it reality. And so, with that being said, I want to get straight to the video to show you all the proof I had gathered that science has made magic real. I'll see you soon. Hello again everyone. Here we are back and we're going to get started on all the proof I had gathered that magic is real. In my first example, I want to talk about the pineal gland. The pineal gland is a small gland that is located in the center of our brain. It's a cone-like gland that's located, if you look at the frontal perspective, right in between our eyebrows. Due to its cone-like shape, that's why many people call it the third eye. I'm sure many of you have heard of the third eye and it's used a lot in magic. Now let's get to the science aspect of this gland. This gland releases a hormone known as melatonin that allows cells to be able to transmit information to other cells. But that's not the only hormone that this gland tends to release. This gland also releases a chemical known as DMT. DMT is a chemical that allows you to alter the realities that you see, like in a dream state. The pineal gland also grants you psychic intuition and messages from other realms or dimensions. Like many other muscles within our body, when we are very small, just children, toddlers, our pineal gland swells. However, within time, with us not exercising and using that pineal gland, it will shrink and will not be able to be used properly. This is why adults have a really hard time believing in magic and receiving messages from other realms, unlike children that are said to have an overreactive imagination. My next example is a scientist known as Alice A. Bailey. This scientist is someone that wrote a book known as The Universe Law Part 2. In this book she stated, vibrations produce realities in our consciousness through which produced vibrations may not be at all like what we perceive. This goes back to the idea of the part of our brain that produces chemicals that influence our perception of reality. Another quote from her book states, change the vibrations of a thing and we change the manifestation of the thing. This concept introduces the idea that within enough concentration we can manifest anything. My next few examples come from a video I seen by Jessie Huttenberg. This YouTuber is one that I found on my quest to find as many answers as possible, and she created a separate video about witchcraft for skeptics. And she talks about all of the science behind witchcraft as well, so I'm going to use her as one of my biggest examples. Within Jessie's video, she tells us about a book called Real Magic by Dean Radin. Dean is a scientist with a PhD that studied different methods in proving that magic is real. Dean introduces two main principles, the first of which he calls Higgs observation effect. This principle discusses that observation of a particle causes the particle to react. The way he came up with this principle is that he's shown an experiment of where he shot a particle through a scientific tube, and that particle was to hit a paper. And every single time that he would shoot that particle through the tube, it will hit the paper in exactly the same spot every single time. However, he noticed that whenever he put an object, whether it be a being, a lamp, a ball, anything, next to the particle or even in the same room as the particle would then react and move to another part of the paper. This principle is very important because it introduces the concept of our consciousness being able to manipulate particles, and so we use that concept within our magic. However, this concept isn't just with conscious beings, it also helps with inanimate objects. For example, we use this when we try and meditate with crystals, herbs, candles, etc. This principle also introduces the idea with our own presence, we affect things around us. Since atoms are always sharing electrons with everything in its environment, we are always connected to the atoms that surround us. That basically means if we were to focus enough, we'll be able to absorb the energy and the vibrations from anything that's around us, which is what we do when we meditate with crystals. That brings me to the second principle. The second principle is known as Higgs-boson particle. This principle states that a particle gathers mass from the Higgs field. Means that the particle can have no mass at all and have a lot of mass, allowing it to fluctuate between them both in the Higgs field. To me, the most important aspect of this principle is that it states that a particle can be two places at once. This brings us back to the idea of our atoms interacting with multiple particles at once simultaneously that can be miles apart. This is why we are capable of performing a spell that could affect someone or something that is miles and miles away from us. Jesse also mentions this experiment, which I have spoken about this experiment in my previous videos before, but it's still good to mention in case anyone had missed it. There was an experiment done in California with monks, and they had performed a ritual on chocolates. In this experiment, there was a control group of which received regular chocolates, and they had no idea of the experiment they were a part of. As well as the people that handed out the chocolates, they had no idea which ones were enchanted and which ones were not. The people that received the enchanted chocolate came back reporting elevated levels of well-being. The concept of meditating with chocolate is actually very important to Buddhists. In fact, sometimes they end up replacing their dinner meals and just having some chocolate as a ritual and more like medicine instead of just eating like candy. This concept is actually described in a factory tour known as Raka Chocolate Factory in Red Hook. This idea of being able to meditate around our tools or being able to even enchant them can be used in our spell bottles, our sachets, and even our water. Jessie also mentions in her video that she knows of people that actually take the time to bless their water. And this actually helps with basically anything. If she wants to make sure that she feels really good that day, if she's about to go exercising and she wants the energy, she can enchant that water, then drink it, and she'll achieve anything that she wants with just meditating with that water. The next two experiments that Jessie actually talks about is one that is very interesting to me. Jessie mentions an experiment done with two groups of seedlings. Those two groups of seedlings are grown in the exact same environment. One group was told to be kind and gentle with their plants, with their seedlings. And the other group was told to be very nasty, very unkind and mean, sort of distasteful to the seedlings. After some time, the scientists have noticed that those seedlings that were treated kindly tend to flourish and grew beautifully. However, the ones that were treated horribly tend to wilter and were really unhealthy. She mentioned a similar experiment done with crystal particles, exactly with the idea of the two groups being in the same environment, one being harsh and one being kind. The crystal particles that received really great care were able to grow, flourish, and they had symmetrical and strong, while the others grew in weak and abstract structures. The next concept that Jessie speaks about is the placebo effect. Now, I'm sure many people have actually heard of the placebo effect, but in short, it basically means that people that were treated with medication for an illness of some kind began healing, and those that didn't have any medication either remained the same or worsened. However, the thing about this experiment is that the medication that was given did not have the chemicals for treating the illness that those patients had. In fact, those pills were blanks. This concept shows that if we feel like we are receiving something that's going to help us, our body reacts kindly to whatever it is that we are taking in. This concept can be used to treat and possibly cure chronic diseases such as mental illness. Meditation is also a big part of this concept. When someone is engaged in prayer or some sort of belief system, it allows them to willingly remove the mental blockages and reach the part of the brain that allows it to self-heal. So after hearing all of this in Jessie's video, I decided to look for more. While I was searching, I encountered this article about Buddhists in New York, gathered by a scientist known as Dr. Josie Povic. This scientist mainly speaks about two parts of the brain in this experiment: the extrinsic and the intrinsic, or default network. Extrinsic network revolves around external actions, like pouring a cup of coffee in your cup. Intrinsic, or default network, revolves around emotion. These two parts of our brain work like a seesaw. When one goes up, the other goes down. However, as these Buddhists were studying in their meditation state, meditation allowed both networks to rise at the same time. When they're in this state, it allows them to feel a sense of oneness with their environment. As Dr. Josie furthered his study, he found that mental illnesses such as Alzheimer's, autism, and depression attack the default system. He concluded that this research can lead to preventing or curing these mental or psychological disorders with meditation alone. Next, I would like to move on to this fashion designer I encountered named Lauren Bowker. Lauren uses the concept of magic within her fashion and healing. While working for the NHS, Lauren has discovered that she can create a plaster or band-aid that changes color when it's healing, if it's infected, or when it needs changing. She was able to continue this process later on in her fashion career, and where she gives inanimate objects in motion. For example, she had a backpack that changes colors depending on what city it's in. Within Lauren's study and career, she stated the following: "That is why I believe in magic. After all, it's science that we don't get yet." Lauren's quote is something I find very interesting. The fact that magic alone is a belief system that you need to believe in order for it to work is science alone. Like she said, magic is just science that we don't yet understand. And so as we continue to become curious, continue experimenting with ourselves, and reach parts of our brain that are dormant at this very moment, we can achieve such a higher self. All of those that are skeptic about witchcraft or are just afraid to try something new, just try it. And if it doesn't work out, then move on. But this is something that I recommend as many people as possible try, because it's something that makes you feel whole. As you see, it even helps with mental illnesses. So why not achieve a higher self if you have the opportunity to? As humans, we are so much more than what we give each other credit for. Witchcraft is just one of those things that people were brought up not to go for. But why not if we have so much evidence that it helps people, that it makes you become a better you, that you can achieve the impossible. Anything is possible with magic, and that is the fun part. Now that I have finished with all of my examples, I will see you shortly. And with that, I conclude this video. If you enjoyed this video and you would like me to create another one and look for more articles just like the ones I mentioned before, please let me know and I will do my best to find some more information. If you want extra information on all of the articles and videos that I had mentioned in this video, it will be in the description below. Now, if you like this video, please leave a like. If you have any questions, please write them in the comments below. And if you want to see more content, please be sure to subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. This has been another Crystalized Witchery episode, and may your gems continue to sparkle.